Welcome to Off the Record with me, Sanny Ntayombya. Every Friday, I bring a brand new perspective to the week's old headlines. So sit back, relax, and let's get that conversation going. But before we do, make sure you hit that follow button. And now, let's get into the very first headline. There are few things I enjoy more than really observing people, my surroundings, and then trying to make sense of it all. I do that often in Kigali. I watch young women, for example, jogging on the Nyarutarama running track late at night, their eyes focused forward with determination, earphones blasting, and think to myself, do they realize just how lucky they are that they can do this without worrying for their safety? And then maybe I'll be observing people in their cars, rudely navigating the evening rush hour, and then ask myself, are these the first people in their entire bloodline to own a car? I mean, you've seen Kigali drivers. I'm sure you've also thought that. Sometimes I'll just be going about my day, and then I'll notice police officers on the road staring stoically ahead in the afternoon heat, and then ask myself, I wonder what they're thinking about right now. Sometimes I will then see newly built houses sprouting all over the country. And I'm like, where's all this money coming from? And what does this all mean? All this money, all this development. You see, I do this mental exercise because I don't want to miss a thing. I worry that if I don't take notice of what's happening around me, I'll fail to understand what the future holds for me and my children in this country of ours. Things are moving so fast, and I'm afraid that if I blink, I'll miss something important. So I just keep observing things keenly. Last week or so, I traveled to Kampala to conduct interviews for my weekly podcast, The Long Form with Sanny Ntayombya. So driving to and from the recordings, sitting in the traffic jams I soon grew accustomed to, I had the chance to watch Kampala's residents go about their day just trying to get by. For those who haven't traveled to Kampala, I'd describe it as the anti-Kigali. By that, I mean that for everything Kigali is famous for, Kampala seems to be the direct opposite. In Kigali, you'll see a security officer on almost every corner, night and day. In Kampala, I traveled from Luzira to Namugongo, a drive that took about an hour and a half one evening without seeing a single police officer on the road. If you're hungry after a night out in Kampala, you'll have a ton of choices from fancy food trucks to seemingly unsanitary Rolex carts. In Kigali, you'll starve. Street foods literally feel almost haram here. So after days of watching and contemplating what I was seeing, when I was comparing the two places that I knew, Kigali and Kampala, I came to what I think is a realization. The biggest difference between the two capitals isn't the food culture or even their bustling streets. It's the overarching way their governments operate. I believe both Uganda and Rwanda want the same thing, prosperity for their people. However, Rwanda's strategy is extremely top-down, evident in initiatives such as Vision 2020, NST1, NST2, Vision 2030, and the Kigali City Master Plan. Uganda's approach, on the other hand, seems to be the direct opposite. I'll call it a hands-off approach. Here in Rwanda, everything is regulated. Food processing, it's overseen by the Rwanda Food and Drug Authority. Events, you want to hold a concert, they're managed by the Rwanda Convention Bureau and the Rwanda Development Board. You have a piece of land and you want to build or do something on it, well, you need the permission from local government entities. Even fuel prices are controlled by the Rwanda Utilities and Regulatory Authority, RURA. In Uganda, in comparison, fuel prices are dictated by the market, so demand and supply. Large concerts happen almost without any single regulatory official in sight other than maybe the police, but that's whatever. And if you can process something, some kind of food, best believe you can sell it. Deregulation is paramount there, while here, regulation is everything. They say that all roads lead to Rome, and I'm sure that both approaches have their merits. So personally, I'm curious to see which one works best in the long run. Can you plan and plot your way to prosperity, as Rwanda is attempting to do? Or does prosperity emerge when people are largely left to their own devices? And maybe beyond prosperity, does having money in the bank correlate to a good standard of living? I hope that both approaches succeed, because I feel the people of both countries deserve to have lives that are meaningful and fulfilling. That was my observation in Kampala. Now, I've read some really bad news over the last couple of days. I read a piece of bad news a few days ago, actually, from the New Times English newspaper here in Rwanda. Actually, calling it bad news is an understatement. It's terrible, tragic news. Now, according to statistics from the Rwanda Biomedical Center, RBC, in the first 6 months of this year, 2024, 10,480 teenage girls got pregnant. What's even scarier than that number is the fact that these figures will have probably doubled by the 31st of December. Shocking. Now, what's even more particularly shocking about these numbers is the fact that a big number of these teenage mothers are below the ages of 14, with some moms as young as 12. So here are the exact numbers if you're curious. From January to June this year, 55 children aged between 12 and 14 got pregnant. And 2,446 children aged between 14 and 17 years of age suffered a similar fate. The rest, aged between 18 and 19, numbered about 8,000. First, I must emphasize the fact that any of those girls who got pregnant, who were below the age of 18, were assaulted. Pure and simple. They were children and therefore couldn't give consent to what was happening to them. I don't want to hear anything about how they were grown up and mature. These girls, these victims of sexual violence, were assaulted. And those adults who violated them need to feel the full force of our laws. They need to be in jail, no mercy, no excuses. Now, I know that the age of consent in Rwanda is 18 years. But to be honest, when I was 18, I was an idiot. Yes, I was tall and my voice had deepened, but I was a child. I might have been adult enough to experiment, but I certainly wasn't adult enough to deal with the consequences of that experiment. Now, if I'd gotten a girl pregnant at that age, my life would have been over, figuratively speaking. My dreams would have had to go by the wayside as I tried to figure out how to become a parent. Today, I'm now over 40, and I find raising my sons still challenging. It's joyful, but it's a challenge. Now imagine if I was 19. Jesus Christ, it would have been difficult. So we all need to do a better job protecting young women, young people from not only rapists, but sometimes even themselves. So for those being impregnated by adults, we need to protect them from those evil men. Here, I'm not only talking to the children's parents, I'm also directing this to local authorities, police, and religious organizations. They need to all work together collectively to protect young women, young girls from predators. Now, for those who risk getting impregnated by their peers, so here I'm talking about fellow teenagers, I say this. We need to educate them, both boys and girls, about doing the deed and its consequences. Look, I understand that young people will experiment with their bodies. It's honestly a tale as old as time. Pretending that teenagers aren't messing with each other is like an ostrich hiding its head in the sand. Its whole body is exposed. We need comprehensive, compulsory sex education in schools. And I don't care whether it's a private school or a government school or a religious school, it needs to be compulsory. I personally think that children need to start being taught the facts of life as soon as they become teenagers and their hormones start raging. I know that the religious will start howling, saying, "Oh, I'm trying to spoil their kids." But here's the fact. When comprehensive sexual education is taught in high school, teenage pregnancy rates fall, as do incidences of STDs. So parents, here's the deal. Either teach these kids how to navigate that part of their lives safely, or be ready potentially to be called grandma and grandpa much, much, much earlier than you had planned. Now, I refused to watch the Amavubi game that took place at Stade Amahoro on Tuesday that pitted them against Benin. Why? Because the last time the two teams met, I think last week or so, our national team, the Amavubi Stars, swallowed 3 goals and scored absolutely none. So the idea of going to Amahoro right after a long day at work just to watch the national team lose just didn't work for me. And not only that, the idea of watching them on TV didn't seem like a good idea as well. Listen, I'm getting older, and I'm not trying to suffer a heart attack because of Amavubi football. So now, funny enough, it seems that my refusal to watch the game somehow maybe gave the team good luck, because lo and behold, Amavubi actually won that game 2-1. When I learned the final score from Twitter, I was really happy. That is, until I heard the comments by the national team coach, Frank Tolston, after the win, directed to fans like myself. His comments were captured by local sports journalist David Bayingana.
Are just looking on the result. I think this is not fair. Even we lost the last match, I think we didn't play a bad match against them. And now if people think, okay, they lost again, now I don't come to the stadium, I only come when they're winning, then they have to go to Brazil or somewhere, I don't know. We are a team that is not on the world-class level. So we will lose against good teams. We have a chance to win if we are fighting as today. But to expect, if you come to the stadium and you only come to the stadium when you are winning, then this is not a fan for me. A fan is someone who is supporting in good times and in bad times.
So, first of all, he sounds defeatist. What do you mean we will lose to good teams? I remember just a few decades ago when the Amavubi Stars would give good teams a run for their money. Men like Jimmy Gatete, Olivier Karachezi, and Hamad Katauti Dikumana competed and won against the best in Africa. So, Mr. Tolston, Coach Tolston, what have you done to raise the level of the national team, other than ask us to come to the stadium to cheer? Football is fundamentally, in my view, about entertainment. Yes, it is about also supporting your nation, but at the end of the day, it's entertainment, pure and simple. And losing badly just isn't entertaining. No one wants to see that. No one wants to watch that. No one's going to take time out of their day to come and watch that. So it's up to you, sir, to make us fall in love with the team as we once were, as we once did. And the only way that you'll be able to do that is by competing and competing consistently. Trust me, if we are consistently competing and not just participating in football games, we shall come back to the stadium in bigger numbers than ever, ever, ever before. And that is a wrap for this week's episode. Thank you so much for making it to the very end. Remember to follow us on our social media and to make sure to check out our other podcast, The Long Form with Sanny Ntayombya. It comes out every Monday like clockwork. Hope to have you back next Friday. Have a great weekend.